Hey, what's up, art geeks? How's everybody doing out there? I hope you're all doing some good work, some good art out there. Hope you're enjoying the day. I hope you're having a good time. Today, I thought I'd talk about something that I bet is on every single artist's mind out there, and that is how to paint with minimal stress, especially when you're a freehand painter like myself. It is so easy to get caught up in stress. I lose my mind sometimes when a painting has taken me hours and hours, and then I find out that I did something that just sets me back. Then I have to go back, start over with certain things, and then I'm just absolutely stressed out of my mind, like, oh my God, all these hours I just wasted doing this one thing. So that is what I'm going to talk about today. Now, what you're watching on the main screen over to my right is a painting I did a couple weeks ago. Yeah, about 2 weeks ago, I think. And it was just a quick, stress-free painting. This is one of those paintings where I did it over the weekend. I have my little desktop easel set up in my basement of my home. And I go into these paintings, especially over the weekend, where I am just trying to take it easy. I'm just practicing. It's kind of an exercise just to keep everything working well with my paintings, make sure my efficiency stays up, just to stay regular, right, with your paintings. If you don't paint regularly, that's one of the first things that you got to do in order to be stress-free with your paintings. So this was all about having fun, painting something that was fairly straightforward. The face isn't at a weird angle. It was mostly, this one was all about playing with some reds. That was really the only goal I went into with this one, was how can I use some reds? I'd say the color palette is very analogous, where it just goes from cooler reds to warmer reds, and that's really all that's happening with the painting. And it becomes just a nice loose impressionism style painting towards the end, nothing really fancy. I do play around with it after this sitting and do some more abstract things with it. I decided not to show that to you. If you want to check that out, go over to my Instagram page. I did do a quick video of that second layer, but I thought for this video, let's keep it straightforward. Since we're talking about being stress-free, I'm not going to add anything extra to the end of this painting where I was trying something else out that maybe is a bit more overwhelming for certain people to even try certain things that I try towards the ends of these paintings, where I get into abstract ideas and things. So that is what you're going to be watching today, and that'll be going on while I talk about how to be stress-free with your painting. Another thing, just want to quickly mention, go over to my Patreon account if you want to check out some tutorials, art downloads. I have a lot of tutorials. I know I'm over 40. I'm over 40 tutorials right now. I have art downloads. Every month I put a new art download that you can print yourself using your own home printer, or sending it out to some fancy printing company. But it's a very high quality, high resolution print every month that you can collect and just put a whole wall of my stuff in your home. And that's just something extra that I throw in there. I think that by itself is worth the signing up for the Patreon account, but I'll let you be the judge. No pressure. Go check it out if you have a chance. Now, let's talk about these things. I have some notes, my little handwritten notes here. It's one of those rare things where I actually write down hand notes. As much as I can stay away from computers, the better, in my opinion. I like to another stress-free thing, try to stay away from computer screens. The more you're staring at a computer screen, the worse off you're going to be. I know you're watching this on a screen. Can't do much about that, but I find that I'm less stressed out the less I'm looking at TVs. That's a little side tip for staying stress-free. But what do I have here? Okay, I already talked about the painting you're watching now, so we can skip that. All right, so I think one of the first things, if you're getting started with painting, if you're in the early stages, especially freehand painting, freehand drawing, one of the things that I think a lot of new artists maybe get caught up with is worrying about painting every single little detail. Now, if you paint like me, you'll notice that I kind of build up detail. I go from the overall shapes to the medium-sized shapes to the finer details. But I usually, with most of my paintings, I like to just pick a couple places where I have a lot of detail. In this one, I end up kind of going even with everything, where the eyes, nose, mouth, all are very much at the same level of detail, I'd say. But the ears, the hair, I'm not worried about any of that. As far as I'm concerned, a lot of that staying more brush stroke, just a lot of gestural brush strokes with those kind of things. That's where you get to have a lot more fun. That's where you can just sit back, be stress-free, and have some fun with brush strokes. If you're wanting to be a super hyper real painter, I don't have a lot of advice for you there, except for maybe take one step at a time. Because if you're trying to be hyper real, you're trying to make every single thing on your painting be really accurate. I think that hyper real painter's got to be the most stressed out of any kind of painter there is, I'm imagining, because it's all about perfection, right? You're trying to be perfect in every way. That's why I lean towards Impressionism. I find that it opens up a little bit more creativity for me personally. It allows me to have fun with brush strokes and get into Expressionism a little bit and have a little bit of fun with certain things, and then be a little bit more serious about certain details. That's where maybe I allow myself to get a little bit more stressed out in certain details. But if the overarching theme, I think, is to keep things in, get a system figured out, go one step at a time. Like this painting, I actually added a couple extra lines at the very beginning of where I wanted the top of the head, the chin, the nose, all that. I was just going very methodically, like, oh, I'll put a couple construction lines in here, I guess you could call them. And then I started with the shapes. So starting off in a certain way can really help you keep a level head, can really help you keep things organized, just everything in your mind organized if you do things a certain way. And one thing I will say is every artist is a little different. Some artists like to just slap some paint around and put some shapes in and just get the overall shapes in and not even worry about construction lines. And that's how I am a lot of the time. A lot of my paintings, I just throw the paint on. I don't even care. It's fun to start that way. It's very loose and freeing, very low stress. But later on in the painting, sometimes I find that not being more methodical at the beginning can lead to more stress. So figure out what works for you. I think that's another good tip, is just figure out what works for you. Check out different systems. The shape-based method is very much a really popular one that's out there. There's a lot of other systems out there. I push the shape-based method. I feel like if you get good at seeing shapes, whether it's landscape, portraits, still lifes, all that, if you can start to see shapes and get those in the right location as close as you can, if there's a little bit of slight variation, not a big deal. Everybody's always a little off when they freehand paint, but you can get it to a point where nobody notices or nobody cares. And as long as especially with portraits, if the likeness is there, nobody's gonna care if you're just a hair off. I think that's one of the more endearing qualities of portrait paintings that are freehand, is when things are just a little off here and there. So don't stress about things being a little bit off. That's another big thing I would say, is as long as it looks like that person, you did a good job with shadows and shapes. If a couple shapes are a hair off here and there, trust me, it's still gonna look like that person. So don't get stressed out by having a couple things here and there off. Mine are off. Every painting I do, even when I'm pushing for a likeness, if I'm doing a commission, and I still freehand paint those, there's gonna be some things that are a little bit off, but you can massage those down. That's why you wanna make sure you go with the big shapes, medium shapes, work your way down to the small details, so that you're not working on a detail of an eye and then you find out hours in that you have it just slightly in the wrong place, right? You don't wanna have to start over like I've done. I still do that. I still end up getting ahead of myself. I don't double check my work. Make sure that my medium shapes, like the eye wells and then just the shadow below the nose and the mouth, making sure that's all there. Make sure the shapes all agree with one another before you get into the details. And then you can feel more confident, especially, and less worried about, oh, am I working on this detail? Am I getting ahead of myself? Is this detail gonna be in the right place? Am I gonna have to redo it? You'll get more confidence that everything's in the right spot as you get better with that system that you figure out. And feel free, and always try to let that system evolve. I think your style is gonna be really, your style is really going to be based on the procedure, the system that you come up with for your paintings. I think every painting, every style you see from other artists, it's all based on the system that they've come up with. And you got to decide how much stress you want to put yourself through. I think every artist has a little bit of stress. You're not going to avoid all of it. It is work. There's nothing, unless you happen to have a kind of art that is very abstract and free and you've gotten a system down to where you're not even thinking about it. I envy you. Please proceed especially if you're selling a lot of your abstract art. I'm envious. I wish I could. I'm tempted sometimes to do some compositions where it's just purely abstract. So maybe down the road, I'll have to try that sometime, do some more abstract work. I've done abstract in the past, but I haven't for a while. And abstracts, like maybe abstract landscapes, things like that, it is definitely something I've thought about. So, do whatever you feel is right for the level of stress you want to deal with. Now, let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, this is a good one. So, on my notes here, I have don't worry about sales. And I think this is one that maybe is a no-brainer, but when you first get started, especially if your identity isn't as an artist yet, maybe you're switching careers, maybe you're just a hobbyist for a long time and nobody took you as this super serious painter or artist, it's going to take a while for people to want to buy your work. Just minus your friends and family, they're going to buy your work right away. But that might be a little bit of a false impression that you're going to be selling to people outside of those groups. You're going to want to just get your style figured out, really get a good portfolio, try to get a series of paintings put together before you really start expecting sales. Now, the better quality your work is, of course, the better chance you're going to sell work. But getting yourself out there is a huge other part to this. The whole thing of selling work is getting yourself out there, like what I'm doing, being on YouTube. One of the reasons I like to do this is to just sit down on my couch and chat or talk about things. But I also think that it makes people more aware of who I am. And I think that's what people want, is a connection with the artist. So that's a big reason why I do these YouTube videos, is to just kind of put myself out there. For better or worse, I don't know. Maybe everybody, let me know. If you hate me, I apologize. Go to the next video. But I'm hoping that just sitting here on my couch and talking with you out there, I'll connect with a few of you. That's what I'm hoping, is to find a connection. People will connect with my work. People want a connection with the work. So the sales, all that's going to come later. Just work on your craft first. And another thing I think that's on here is, one thing at a time. Just try to improve one thing at a time. Whenever you're painting, there's an overwhelming, and I swear the better I get at painting, the more things I try to improve, and I feel like I get frustrated that I'm not amazing at everything. There are always things to improve, and it seems like the better you get, the more things you're aware of that you're not good at. But if you can just focus on one thing at a time, like this painting that you're watching, for example, I was really focusing on just how to make these reds work together as a portrait. And I've done red paintings before, but I haven't done one quite like this, I'd say. And I was really focusing on brush strokes, trying to get really intentional brush strokes, especially towards the end, and to have a really nice impressionism feel. Those are, I guess, okay, so there's three things that I was working on with this painting, but I was just at home, relaxing at my little desk setup, and it was very low. I did not care whether this painting turned out or not. That was the best part about this painting, and it does turn out really well. Wait till the end. It does turn out pretty good, I think. The next thing, realistic goals. I think we kind of talked about this a little bit. Realistic goals, like getting a series. I think that should be one of your first goals. But if you're just starting, say you're switching from pencil to color, just focus on learning how colors mix together. You got to start at those foundational things first. Get those things figured out, because if you jump to other things and get way overcomplicated, you're going to stress yourself out. You're not going to have any fun. It's going to take time. Just know all this is going to take time. So just set realistic goals and just Try to hit those goals and be very objective about where you're at with your art, and that will really help you down the road. Get a routine together. That's another one I wrote down here. I try to paint daily. I try to paint in the morning. If I go more than a few days without painting, I get a little nervous that I'm going to lose a little bit of my mojo, which does happen. The longer you go without painting, the more you lose that mojo. What I mean by that is you lose that efficiency, you just lose that natural built-in ability to do the things you want to do with your paint. And the longer you go, the more those just built-in mechanisms in your brain just disappear for whatever reason. Now, the next one here is, let's see what we have. Have a set place to work. This is a great one. Now, I know some of you maybe have different living situations. You're living at home with your parents. Maybe you just have a bedroom, but try to have a spot where you can paint regularly, where you're not having to always like move things from one room to another or having to set things up. This setup can get a little bit annoying. If you don't have like an easel set up, you don't have a palette set up, you're gonna lose your mind having to reset that up. The lighting is very big. If you can, there's many different ways to have a lighting setup, but whether it's natural light, but if you're painting at nighttime, you need to have some sort of lighting system. You want soft lighting, whether it's just a couple lamps you buy really cheap at the hardware store and put some parchment paper over it to soften it. That's a simple way to do it. There's a lot of different ways, but have a system where you can just sit down and just start painting. Huge stress reliever, having it just organized in a way that really works for you. All these things really, really help you out to get rid of the stress part so you can just jump into painting. Because sometimes that's just a hurdle too. Just starting painting is a hurdle. Like, oh my God, I got to set up all this stuff. I don't have my desk set up. If there's a lot of hurdles in your way just to get that first pile of paint mixed on your palette, getting that first brush mark, if you can get a lot of those hurdles out of the way, it'll really help you be more regular about your painting and to have that routine that will get you painting more regularly. And finally, I think this is the last point I'm going to make, is you don't need to share your work right away. If your work is just not there, if you find that it's not in a place where you want to show it to people, don't show it to people. Just so you know, for years, I kept my art to myself. It was something I worked on. Of course, a few people knew about it, but I kept it to myself for many, many years. It was just a hobby. I enjoyed it ever since I was a kid. Minus like art classes in high school. Most of the time, only the people in a very small radius of my friend group would really see my artwork. I didn't really share it that much. I just had fun doing it. And it wasn't until I got more serious in my late 20s that I decided to get on Instagram, to get on YouTube, TikTok, all those different social media platforms and start showing my work. And even when I did, I still wasn't quite there, but if you don't want to show your work, if that's something that you're stressed out about, is having people judge your work, then just wait until you feel it's in a place where it's ready to show. If you want to get a mentor to show your work to, that'd be a good way to at least kind of get an objective opinion on your work. I think that can really help you out quite a bit. So there's a lot of things you can do to kind of keep it off the radar until you're ready. So I think that's about it. Thank you all of you art geeks out there for checking out another video. Like, subscribe, go check out my Patreon account, all that good stuff. I will talk to you all again very soon. Bye.